they've got all this personalization you can do on the car. Wild colored tops and so on. They've got an interesting B pillar that is covered by the glass, the side glass at the very top of it. So it's a pretty distinctive design.
Mm-hmm.
Be nice to see those here, but we won't anytime soon.
I don't think so.
No, not at all.
Even though PSA maintains an office here in Detroit.
I know. We see the gentleman who works for them at the APA lunches every now and then.
Yeah. Richard Lucky.
Thank you. Yeah.
Probably Lucky in French, but
I think he's pretty lucky to have that. I'm sure he does a lot of work for them, but being someone who works in a satellite office myself, I can tell you
not a bad way to
go,
right?
Doing that.
Yeah.
So we've got about a minute and a half, and probably about 10 seconds prior, I'll mute your stream, Fireball, and then we'll bring you back up when John calls for you.
Great.
Man, that almost sounds illegal.
I was going to say, that sounds harsh.
Muting your stream, Fireball.
Fireball, can you give me an audio check? Just count to 5.
Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Talking in.
Yep, good, thanks.
Chip, did you see Pirate Radio?
I did. It had its moments.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Not enough
guys.
of them, though.
Does this somehow remind
Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone, passion for excellence, and by Chevrolet, the all-new Chevrolet Cruze. Get used to more.
Studio Thursday night, and joining me, as always, the Autoextremist is in the house.
John, good evening.
Good evening, Peter. It's good to be here again.
It is.
And also joining us is Todd Lassa from Motor Trend Magazine and Motor Trend Classics, too.
And Motor Trend online on motortrend.com and all those other Motor Trends we've got. Good to be here, John.
Cool, that's great.
Peter.
And we'll have Fireball Tim coming in with us later on in the show. This guy's a car designer in Hollywood. He's done all kinds of stuff for movies and television programs and commercials and whatnot. So we'll have fun talking with him later on in the program. But crazy day today. Big news today at GM that their CFO, who's only been there barely a year, a little over a year, is going. What's going on here?
Well, let's review. He came from Microsoft, and at the time, Big Ed Whitaker said he'd certainly will be in the mix for chairman.
CEO.
CEO.
For sure.
CEO, and Chris Liddell clearly said that that's what he was interested in doing.
Because he had already been CFO at Microsoft.
Right, and he made no bones about that, and it was a path that was available to him, but it has been denied.
And he went on to successfully launch the IPO. He was given a lot of credit for that. They did the road show. The stock was supposed to launch at something like $26 a share, and he was able to trump it up to $33 a share, and which went up a few bucks per share for weeks after that today, when it was announced that he was leaving, it fell below $33 per share.
Yeah, the whole
First
market's
time.
down. I wouldn't read too
Well,
much
okay.
into that.
True. But you should read a lot into the fact that he did make it clear in the press conference that was hastily called this morning.
Yeah.
So hastily called that I'm afraid I missed it. But turns out that he said that whatever he does next, and he doesn't know what it is yet, it will not be CFO. So, I mean, if that's not saying, yeah, I was supposed to be CEO, I don't know what is. I wonder what relations were like between him and Ackerson the last
Well, I
few
think
months.
this is, if Lieutenant Dan and Steve Gursky wanted him there, he'd still be there.
I think you're exactly right.
And it's clear that there was much more to this, and it's probably a personality disagreement between these guys. And
There was one other thing you can't discount, and that's the fact that their salaries are still limited because of the government ownership.
Yeah, but they're all looking, and this is the other thing we got to talk about, what Alan Mulally and Bill Ford earned this week.
Well, exactly.
Then, I don't know what Mullally's gross was, but something like $56 million?
56, and then
Bill Ford was 40
million in tax.
in taxes. Yeah, Uncle Sam's real happy. And then Bill Ford got, what about 42? I can't remember the name. Big numbers, big numbers. So my point is, you don't think that was a message to the whole industry? I guarantee you, every bonus level management person in this industry went, hello, can we get something like this? So I don't think it was the salary thing. I think Peter's on the right track. Whitaker brought in Chris Liddell. Whitaker's gone. Remember, he also woke up one morning and they had to have a hastily called press conference to announce he was going too.
Yeah.
There seems to be a pattern there.
Yeah, and I as I said, I agree with Peter. I mean, it's definitely I think there's probably some personality clashes there between Liddell and Ackerson. They just seem like two very different types of managers. Ackerson very brash, a bit of a loudmouth maybe, whereas Liddell maybe is a quieter sort. And yeah, definitely the fact that he didn't get the CEO job. Like I said, he made that clear with a statement that his next job, whatever it is, will not be as a CFO. He was ready to be CEO, no question.
Right. And the fact that, as you're pointing out, that he has no idea where he's going or what he's going to do tells you everything right there. He just got up and said,
sure.
You know what, I am so out of this place.
I'm not doing that.
And I missed the press conference because it was announced at 8:18 this morning, and it happened at 9 a.m.
Look, the only reason I knew it is WWJ, that I do
right.
reports on, CBS All News affiliate, that are on top of everything by the millisecond,
They called
me to go, what does this all mean? So that's how I found out about it.
Yeah. But then there's the Ford thing, and I think my point about the salary is that the salary caps certainly don't help. I mean, it just makes it easier for someone like Liddell to walk
look,
away
these
at this
guys are going to
point.
make a ton of money. Now, they got to wait until GM's totally clear of the government stock, government-owned stock. But
He clearly didn't want to wait until the CEO job opened up again either, though. So obviously he was somewhat impatient about that.
well, I don't think he was going to get the CEO job. It wasn't
No,
a
but I
matter
mean,
of
if you
being
look at-
impatient. I think he realized, I ain't going to get this thing, and I may as well leave now and go find something.
Yeah. So what about Ford, though? I mean, all props to Mulally. He's done a great job the last few years. We named him the #1 guy on our power list this year. But are they popping the champagne corks just a bit too early? I mean, we still have some important product that we're waiting to launch. From the point of view of us, I mean, the bigger car is going to be something like the new Ford Focus coming out in a matter of weeks, basically. And sure, the Fiesta's been a little bit of a success, but if you look at the monthly volume,
Yeah, the Focus
still pretty small.
is really the most pivotal launch for Ford, the mainstream.
Well, that's where they can really make money. I mean, Fiesta, I think, is at the head of the class right now in terms of sales, but the sales aren't big numbers. They're not making big money on this car in the U.S. market. Now, globally, as a platform, I believe they are making money.
Yeah, but Ford has had some sales problems in Europe last few months, last few quarters. They're not as successful there as they've been in the United States the last year or so. So,
well, I said on the site, the bottom line is they didn't take the money. They made the hard choices. They mortgaged their entire essence as a corporate.
Put everything up to risk.
Mulally focused the organization. They put their heads down and they focused on product. So, in the old days of corporate America, if you did something like that, you were rewarded handsomely. And so they got rewarded, and I think they deserved it. Now, people might think it's excessive, but when you really dive into the scope of the turnaround at Ford,
I'm not saying it's excessive. I'm just wondering whether it might be a little early.
Well, it could be, but I think they've got some product hits coming. So.
Well, I don't think it's too early, really, in the sense that they're rock solid profitable right now. And yeah, if you look at the value of the corporation, the market cap, as they call it, I don't know how many tens of billions of dollars that Mulally has increased it by in 3 years' time.
Plus paid debt.
And paid down debt and all that. So when you take the value of a corporation and, easily double it, maybe triple it, I'd have to go look at the numbers, what they actually have been, and you're generating tens of billions of dollars of wealth. $56 million is nothing.
You deserve a little
They could
bit.
do $100 million, and I'd say that's not excessive. Some people will say it's excessive, and it will also create expectations on the part of the UAW, so you got to be cognizant of that. And everybody else in the organization. It's not just going to be Bill and Alan that get all the money right. Everyone else is thinking, I got a share in this too.
Well, but let's not forget too that another important thing is you mentioned Bill and Alan, and if nothing else, it provides a little bit of a cover for Bill, who has not taken much money out of the corporation for the last.
He hasn't taken a salary for 4 years.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe he was getting a bit anxious about that, and the fact that you've got, here's Bill Ford, who hired this guy Alan Mulally, and look what he's done for the company. He was prescient in knowing to take out this huge home mortgage, second mortgage, to have money in the corporation when the downturn came, and but in part it was Bill saying, "Oh, I'm the guy who knew that I'm not the guy to do the job someone like Alan was," and and boy, I haven't taken any salary in 5 years, and before I take any, I better make sure this guy gets some too. So the fact that they're both in the same year, it has a lot to do with covering that for Bill, I think.
Well, I think, and I've said this going back a year and a half ago, once they cleaned out the legacy costs, there's going to be some big bonuses rolling through this town because they're all going to be profitable. Ford's only just getting going. And as you guys know, they have this accounting change that they may do this year where they don't have to keep this reserve, and
Extra
they could
13
drop
billion or something?
$10 billion to $13 billion to the bottom line. I mean,
The other important thing about
that'll
Ford,
generate a bonus.
and you also have to give Mulally credit for doing a lot of the stuff that happened to General Motors especially, and to Chrysler under bankruptcy, and he did it without bankruptcy. As you point out, didn't take any money, but I mean, things like cutting the dealers and apparently being able to do it without, well, certainly without any of the backlash that the Chrysler and GM dealers gave to their companies. So, reorganize, that sort of reorganization being done without having to do it through bankruptcy has certainly paid off.
Hey, changing topics entirely. This Renault scandal thing is just getting crazier and crazier by the day, and now the Journal's reporting today, the Wall Street Journal, that they're going to hire these guys back, and they paid this middleman like
$350,000.
right, and now they can't find the middleman or the money.
I mean, this is
What is this about?
it's horribly embarrassing at the very least, and they say that Carlos's right-hand guy is going to have to take the fall for it.
Well, he said that a week ago.
But
Because
then-
probably Carlos told him a week ago.
But then they're saying Carlos won't accept his resignation. I mean, it's just a train wreck. I don't get it.
I don't get it.
It's we've been dealing with auto companies working in China and how big China has been. You mentioned the Citroen, the Metropolis concept that I saw in Geneva last week was done in China. And, we know about what China has done for General Motors, for example, and not so much for Ford, by the way. But, China turns out maybe is good cover for some scam artist who comes along and says, I've got some information for you. They clean out 3 top executives, and now the top executives are probably saying, hey, we didn't do anything, and I've
said
got
that
a
all
lawyer.
along.
Yeah, they did.
And now, if I'm
Right.
one of them, I'm like, answer my phone. Well, I don't
But
know.
they've got lawyers who are willing to go in and prove it, so they've got to hire them back. And
I'm looking at my phone, so I don't know if I'm coming in this week, but we can talk about it. I think I might need a little increase in my perks or something here
And
because
my shoes look a little scuffed.
But does working with China provide you some sort of cover for that sort of thing if you're a scam artist or whatever? I mean, it's a very tough market to deal with, no matter who you are, whether you're Renault, Nissan, or General Motors or whatever. And now, the other news coming out is that the car sales are starting to slip in China as the incentives go away.
Or how about BYD?
Is this another,
as you talked
is this
about?
another house of cards?
This whole this BYD thing.
Oh, it's hilarious. Their sales are plummeting. I mean, they're dropping like a rock in China, the hottest market in the world.
Well,
they're dropping
I
like
wrote
a
on the
rock.
site a few weeks ago. How's it working out for you, Warren?
Yeah. Right.
How's that multi-billion?
And it's one thing.
It
to be
would
going-
take the car industry to bring down Warren Buffett, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And here's poor BYD. Not only is their sales going through the floor,
After saying they were going to conquer the world.
their chairman is still saying we're going to be #1 in China in 2015. Well, that's only 4 years away, and #1 in the world by 2020, I think, is what he's saying. So it's
And they're copying cars.
and yeah. Now that's still going on there.
That BMW 5 Series clone.
Oh yeah, well that's what Brilliance.
Oh, yeah, brilliant.
Brilliance Automotive, which is BMW's own partner.
BYD only copies Toyota Corollas.
Right.
Yeah.
I forgot.
But
I can't
if
keep
you're
the
going to copy
copy straight.
if you're going to copy a car, why copy a car from a company that hasn't updated its own car in like 20 years? I mean, but whatever.
Hey, on this Renault thing, is it entirely possible my conspiracy thinking mind comes up with that maybe we got to look deeper and maybe they did catch the Chinese red-handed with this stuff because the Chinese hit the roof? And did they call Sarkozy and said, hey, you wanted to sell us this, you wanted to sell us that, you wanted to sell us the other thing?
And did
Deal's off, brother. Either you clean this up or we're not going to deal with you. They call Carlos Ghosn and they say, Carlos, here's the deal.
well, as a
You're gonna have to eat
Machiavellian,
this.
as
And
a-
maybe they're calling Ghosn, not even to Sarkozy, and they're saying, you wanted to sell the Leaf in China, did you say?
as a Machiavellian bit of conspiracy theory, I kind of like that. I
like that too.
We've seen that before. I mean, General Motors tried to get back at Cherry Fort's clone of the little Spark.
Yeah,
Thank
CC,
you. Which
what
was
they called
originally
it?
a Daewoo design,
Right.
And that never went anywhere. And I told someone at GM years ago, what's to keep China from just kicking you guys out at some point? Saying, well, these are now
We've been saying that all along.
Right.
They could just wake up one day and say, thanks very much.
right.
Bye-bye now.
You helped us a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could happen. I don't think that's going to happen. I
No,
really
but
don't.
that would be the extreme, and your conspiracy theory is like a few steps in that direction. And I'm saying it's a good conspiracy theory.
All I'm saying is it's so,
I think
Carlos Ghosn's
there's
no
something
dumb.
to that.
And and he was very vocal about, look, we got all the proof in the world, and the French, intelligence service was involved in it. And then all of a sudden they go, oh, we made a mistake.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, wait a minute, what's the story?
And I think your conspiracy theory part B is more correct. There's no reason for them to even go to Sarkozy. You just go straight to Ghosn
Yeah,
and
and
say,
said, look, you wanted to
what do you
sell
want
all
to
these
sell in
electric
China?
cars here.
Yeah.
You know, where else are you going to get volume like you can here?
Yeah.
Back off, Jack.
Because if
Hire those guys back, say it was a mistake, and we'll let you sell them here.
if we kick you out, we'll be building them here anyway. So what's the difference?
Right. That's right. Hey, this is probably a good time to take a break to talk about one of our sponsors, and then when we come back in a moment here, let's bring Fireball Tim on board. But I want to just take a moment to talk about the Chevrolet Cruise, which you can check out at Chevrolet.com/cruise. Comes with all kinds of equipment on it. We've talked about some of these things before. Ambient LED backlights on the dashboard. Remote start from your MyLink app. 9-speaker Pioneer premium sound system. XM satellite, USB port, 40 gig hard drive, a whole bunch of other stuff, more than I can list here. But you can check it out at Chevrolet.com/CRUZE. So Ben, let's bring in Fireball Tim here from Malibu, California.
Hey guys, how are you?
We're doing great, Tim.
Hey, Tim, how are you?
Hi, Tim.
Good. Awesome.
So, okay, I identify you as what? A Hollywood car designer who's done all kinds of cars for movies, TV programs, commercials. Fill in the blanks. What am I missing here?
Well, I guess you could say anything that's weird, we come up with. We'll take
Does that
the
start with
normal
the
cars
designer?
that come out of Detroit and we just ruin them.
So,
Everything from happy faces to anything the client orders. It's really a hotbed of creativity. So it's whatever from ad agencies to the studios come up with that they need to help promote whatever their product is, whether it's a film or a product or anything else. We'll use vehicles as a means to achieve that.
so do you keep the cars afterwards? What happens to them?
Yeah, sometimes it happens right.
Audio.
We got an audio. Hold on, Tim. We got an audio problem here. Yeah, try that again.
Test.
Yeah,
Here I am.
Yeah, there you are.
Okay. It can happen in a variety of ways. It depends on what the client wants, but sometimes we'll keep the cars. It'll be done as a build rental, so they'll pay to have the car built, but then they don't know what to do with it. So, sometimes they'll stick it in storage, or we'll keep the car, we'll sell it, we'll auction it. There's a whole variety of ways that it'll happen. But the company we work directly with is Cinema Vehicle Services, and there's about 1,200 cars on the lot there. So production designers and directors will come by and have a specific movie that maybe takes place in the 30s or the 50s, and they'll hand pick cars that they want. And if they don't look good, we'll make them look good. If they need to be a different color, we'll change them. If they need to do something special, be a stunt vehicle or anything like that, and then we'll modify them to whatever the appropriate behavior might be. So it's pretty interesting because I go in once a week to the shop and there's stuff that just shows up that it blows my mind. I'm constantly amazed, even though I'm in the industry. To walk in just last week and see Chitty Bang Bang was quite a treat. So it was pretty cool.
What was the most fun movie you ever worked on?
I can't hear you guys.
Oh, yeah, what's going on here? What was the most fun movie you ever worked on?
The most fun. Honestly,
We got problems here. Hold on a second. Ben, you got any ideas?
I don't know. He's got headphones in.
Should we just push on through, Ben, or what do you say here?
Yeah, give it another shot.
Okay. So, what was the most fun movie you ever worked on, Tim?
Funny you should ask that. I almost feel like I've heard that question before. But, honestly, the most fun is the one that happened at the time.
There we go. It's not, we're losing you.
Why don't we try cutting video? See, maybe we're just using too much bandwidth here.
Want me to cut video and try it again?
Well, I think Ben can cut it here.
Actually, have him shut off his video as well.
Yeah. Ben says, why don't you shut off your video as well?
Done.
Okay.
Okay, let's try it, Fireball. What was the most fun movie you ever worked on?
The most fun is definitely, for me, the one that I'm currently working on. And, each one has its own specific set of challenges. And it's all fun, because each one is completely different. Right now we're doing vehicles for, still doing some stuff for Spider-Man, which is known as Theona's Tail when it came in. And we're doing some stuff for the new Wonder Woman that's coming up. We continue to do stuff for Criminal Minds and for CSI Miami. But that's part of it. So, my company is Fireball Tim Entertainment. So we do a variety of things with a variety of clients, Auto Trader Classics, a lot of the studios. It's just fun. Every day I get out of bed. I don't know what's going to happen that day, but it's always a good time, and it always involves cars. So we're having fun.
What's the toughest car you've had to do to date? Which one has taken you the longest or has been the most demanding job?
I think the toughest is really trying to achieve multiple cars in a short period of time, because you're dealing with the studios and they want 20 cars and they want it by next week, So my primary job is as a designer. I can run the teams and stuff, but you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with. So a lot of the guys I have a tremendous amount of faith in that they can pull off things that are extraordinary, things that I can't. But I think the most challenging is really the time frame to be able to complete a series of vehicles. We've done projects that have been upwards of 30 vehicles at one time. Gone in 60 Seconds was 7 vehicles, and in a pretty short period of time, over just a few weeks, literally. So, I'm sorry, just a couple of months. So, the challenge really is that being able to, when someone says you'll never work in this town again, they don't really need to say that. You just kind of create that for yourself just by, showing up late or showing up with cars that don't start. And the cars are just like actors, they're temperamental. They pull attitudes and do a variety of things. But as a designer, it's really fun, and I get to hang out with a lot of concept people. I have a lot of good friends in the industry. I just went to an MPG event with Frank Stevenson of McLaren, and we get a chance to talk about different approaches and different things. Doing a production car is vastly different than doing vehicles for film, but it does have its own set of challenges.
How big is your shop, Tim?
The shop's about 100,000 square feet, and it has pretty much, you can pretty much do everything except form glass. It's there's a museum there. There is when it's really rocking, I would say there's probably upwards of 60, 70 people working at one time.
Wow.
So
that's a car factory, man.
Yeah, it can be, absolutely. And, just a lot of stuff going on. And I said, Cinema Vehicles is actually not my shop. It's the shop we work exclusively with. It's where all my cars get built. And we have a number of different projects that we do with them. But, it's when a big movie comes in, like right now, we actually finished Mission Impossible 3. We did some stuff on Thor. We're doing some promotional vehicles for Thor right now. So when some big ones come in, it's pretty cool because from concept to completion, you got to move really fast. Sometimes they're small, sometimes they're massive. You can barely even get them out of the shop by the time they're done. Some of the things we did for G.I. Joe 2, G.I. Joe. Whoops, I slipped. Sure, I was supposed to say that.
Oh no, there's a.
But G.I. Joe is.
There's a sequel. Who knew?
There is a sequel coming. Yeah, absolutely. But then we have our own podcast called the Hollywood Garage podcast, where we kind of reveal upcoming movies, and because we find out about films long before anybody else, upwards of a year and a half. So a lot of the films that we're allowed to reveal, we put on the podcast, and we talk about how cars and film are affected by the automotive industry, and how the automotive industry is affected by features. So it's pretty neat.
Do you have a favorite car guy movie? Like an all-time favorite? Maybe something you could name maybe before you got in the business. Was there anything that kind of inspired you?
Well, I was inspired by a number of things. I think that probably the first thing was it wasn't even necessarily a car. My uncle was Mike Carroll. He was a famous pylon racer. He had a Hawker Sea Fury airplane that was painted with flames on the front, and that was pretty extraordinary. That influenced me, and I think that influenced the fact that my legal name is now Fireball. Not necessarily the greatest thing for a plane, but
not necessarily for a car
think,
either, frankly.
Yeah, right. But I think growing up, I hung out with George Barris a lot. I went over to his shop a lot as a kid. I went and hung out with Gene Winfield, Gene Jeffries, Big Daddy Roth, and I just, I bounced around with these guys. My whole family's in the film industry, so I basically grew up on a soundstage, and my parents always gave me two things. That was cars and art supplies. And I'm basically just doing the same thing. The cars are a little bit bigger. I can actually sit in them now. But all intents and purposes, the biggest influences were probably shows like The Monkees, Partridge Family. A lot of TV-based projects, which George was doing a lot of that kind of stuff. And I think probably one of my favorite all-time car movies was The Car with James Brolin.
Wow.
It was neat to see that cars are definitely characters in film, and how they approach them is very intricate. So they spend more time developing, at least I do, spend more time developing the design conceptually sometimes than the actual build process.
Did you work on Duel by any chance?
I'm sorry, on what?
Duel.
I think he's probably too young to duel.
Steven Spielberg's first effort. Remember where Dennis Weaver's chased by the rogue semi?
Oh yeah, that was the best.
Yeah, that was cool. And
very cool.
Dennis Weaver I think he was driving a Valiant.
Yeah, 1971 maybe.
Yeah, and the truck was this just evil truck, and it's cool.
Yeah, it's funny sometimes. People will say, come up to me at shows, and they'll say, "Wow, I didn't realize that you did the Starsky Torino from Starsky and Hutch." And I said, "Dude, I was 11 years old when that show came out."
But you worked
besides, it was just a paint job.
Remake,
right?
I told you
I
he
didn't
was
work
too
on
young.
that, but
you worked on the remake, right?
On what?
Did you work on the remake of Starsky and Hutch with?
Yeah, that was one of those vehicles where we had to build, quite a few of them. That happened around the same time that we did Dukes of Hazzard, and
cool.
we had to do 20, 30 of those cars because they were destroying them left and right. A lot of stunt versions. It didn't really matter because they were going to come back just absolutely crushed, and sometimes we had to fix them, and sometimes they just kind of sat there and looked bad. But we did the cars for the movie Faster, and it's cool that sometimes they come back and they got bullet holes in them, and that's the ones I want to take to the shows. I think that's the ones that the kids like, that are all crushed and look cool like they've been used.
What's the toughest car you've had to turn over to have it destroyed? I mean, was there ever anything really kind of something that would make us car guys cringe, like any kind of classic Jaguar or Aston Martin or something that you had to turn over to a producer and they brought it back with bullet holes or crushed or didn't bring it back at all?
Well, the studios are pretty good. There's, it's pretty rare when a car comes back unintentionally crushed.
Oh, I don't mean unintentionally. I mean something that where a car guy would say, "Oh, you can't possibly destroy that," but the producers were willing to destroy it. Was there ever anything like that you had to turn over where you just kind of cringed and said, "Okay, you can have it, but I don't want to think about it being destroyed"?
Yeah, I think that Eleanor from Gone in 60 Seconds was definitely that. Just a ding coming back on that car was, a little, I would say a thorn in the side, but it was really not. It was like a big old dagger, just shoved right in there because, we love that car, and the last thing you want to do is take a tremendous classic that's gorgeous and try to improve upon it in just a few months. But
right.
The overall look was I think pretty good, and everybody was happy with it. And when it would come back, it was the mirror would be missing, or it'd be dented on one side, just small things, and you just go like, oh, poor baby, you know. It was just something that you didn't want to have happen. But I think one of the funnest things we did was recently for Sorcerer's Apprentice, Nick Cage brought his $1 million rolls in, and he said, you know, I want to duplicate this thing because I want to drive it in the film, but for some reason he didn't want to fishtail it or roll it for reasons I don't know why, but so we had to build one from the ground up that was complete, perfect rolls just like his car, so we could do all the stunt stuff with it, and it was very effective. You know, it came back still looking pretty good. It's still in the shop, and that was a real fun project, especially for the guys that a lot of the fabricators and painters. It was pretty cool.
Is there anything that you feel you haven't worked on that you'd like to? Something else out there that you'd still like to do?
Well, I did the first Batmobile for the Keaton movie, way back when, and I think that the new Batmobile is extraordinary. It's it's like a $9 million build, and they've done a number of them, and Nathan Crowley was the designer on that, did an extraordinary job. I think if another Batman were to roll around, you'd take quite a long time to be able to develop conceptually something at this stage of the game, because movies are very sophisticated. If you go back and watch that first Batman movie and compare it to Batman Begins or Dark Knight, you know, it's a whole different ballgame. I mean, those movies are really bad at this point, you know. And the sophistication now with a lot of the new films, Batman Begins, Dark Knight, and the new one, Dark Knight Rises, has really set the bar for the seriousness of a superhero type movie. That's why Superman, Man of Steel is going to be as sophisticated as it's going to be, with Zack Snyder directing and Chris Nolan producing. So, you know, to do another Batmobile would be very cool. I think that would be quite a challenge to be able to create something that would be really not a designer's dream, but really the ultimate design challenge, because it's a cross between form and function in a very creative sense. So that would be a lot of fun.
Are you getting much competition from CGI these days? I'm thinking
No, absolutely not. It's not at all. CGI it's almost like a pen is another tool, much like a pencil. You know, a pencil allows you to do things a certain way. A pen is similar, but it does things in a different way. You know, having CG just allows you to do things with cars that you could never do before. It allows them to do things like, we face a lot of different challenges. You know, not building a certain side of the car because you have a camera rig that has to be on it, so they can CG that side of the car back on. Really, in no way have we been affected by the fact that CG has taken business away. It just, it allows cars to drive up the sides of buildings, to do things that cars could just never do before, and that's a great asset for filmmakers. But for all intents and purposes, most filmmakers, when they want to do car stunts and basic car things, they still want that grittiness, and CG isn't necessary for something like that. So it's really been a good emergence of the two.
That's cool to hear, because, that was a great question, Todd, because I would have thought that CG would have definitely affected what you might be doing these days, because so much could be covered up, with the computer.
Well, maybe at least in terms of destroying cars, that maybe you have more cars return that way because you can do a CGI. I'm thinking of some of the apocalyptic movies where whole streets full of cars go flying all over the place, that sort of thing. But,
yeah, I mean, it's just as a director, you would look at that as being a really great tool, because you can do, vehicle replication on a massive scale. I mean, look what they're doing with the movie Cars. They just wouldn't be able to do that movie, period.
Sure.
Because that kind of things it doesn't make any sense to build those kinds of things. And that's not taking anything away from us. It's actually allowing more creativity. It allows directors to be much more flexible, so that, when they look at how to achieve some of these shots and some of these things, something as simple as flopping license plates. If you want a car to go left to right instead of right to left, you miss the shot, You can go back and you can flop the license plate so that it works. You can put the driver on the other side. There's all kinds of things that you can do, and it's pretty neat. But part of it is what it's done is it's kind of opened up a Pandora's box, because you can do anything now. The audience really expects that. They really expect that sophistication, so that you can really come up with creative ideas that really blow people's minds, and that's really kind of the challenge nowadays.
So can you drive any of these cars home?
I can. It's just I wouldn't necessarily choose to, because you don't want to drive a gorgeous '57 Chevy Classic, all cherried out to the store just to pick up some soy milk or something. We have a project that we started on the podcast called Project Talk. Guys there?
We're losing
you.
Yeah.
There? You can hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
we
better.
can.
Okay. So I have a new project called Project King Tahoe, and it's I have a '97 Tahoe that we're trying to get people to understand that when you got a car in your garage and you look at it and you go like, oh, there's 10,000 things, I don't even know where to begin on fixing my car up or modding my car, that kind of stuff, and so we decided we're just going to do one mod a week for 52 weeks. And just add something simple, and when you take small steps, much like anything, when we build a car, we have to create a very sophisticated budget and plan. You can't just go to it and just start ripping things apart and hoping they all fit together. You have to have a very clear plan as to how you go about it. So one step at a time, you can put things together and you can create your dream ride. It doesn't have to cost a tremendous amount. You start with the small things, the cheapest things, and somehow things find a way. So right now, I'm just driving this beast. It's great. It's a perfect Malibu car, because with all the landslides and all the things that suddenly happen in Malibu, and it's and all the stars that you have to avoid as you drive through town and not try to hit. It's cool.
Probably a few
but
you'd like to hit.
But which ones would I like to hit?
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But when it comes to car shows and things like that, we just went to a grand opening for Pep Boys. Their new speed shop was really cool. We took a Ferrari down to that show, and it was great. It's nice to be able to bring wish fulfillment cars to shows so that people get a chance to. I'm just one of those guys that I don't want to have a car that I can't drive. I want to be able to use it, and it has no use to me if it's in a museum and it looks nice. I want to be able to take it to a show, and if someone wants to sit in it and I'm at a show, it's like, absolutely. I don't care if it's, and not that I drive this, and I don't, but if I brought a Bugatti Veyron to a show and someone wanted to sit in it, it's like, let them sit in it. It's about providing a real positive experience for people.
Right.
And we get an opportunity. I'm really blessed to be able to do what I do, because it's an opportunity to spread auto love across the planet, and I know we do that with films. People love movie cars, but we try to do that with everything. I have toys, Johnny Lightning die-cast that are sold in Walmart, and it's just it's a blessing to be able to share that love of cars, and in a variety of ways. So movies are very effective ways to do that. So are car shows.
You have a lot of competitors, or are you pretty much one of the few who does this?
Yeah, there's a few other companies that do it, but I just don't. I'm not from the competitive mindset. I think there's plenty for everyone. CBS has been around a long time, and I've been around long enough to know that the more I start worrying about competition, the more I create problems for myself. So I feel that there's enough to go around for everybody. I try to do things in a very positive way. We try to work with people and not only create a positive product, but create a positive experience. And that that the studios are getting what they need in a professional manner, and that we work on. There's no guarantee that a movie comes out and it's going to be good. In fact, a lot of times they suck, big time. and that's a bummer because you spend a lot of time building something or creating something, designing something. The movie comes out and it's gone in a week. But it gets made up for when the movie comes out and it's really good and people really enjoy it and you hear about it, and now suddenly you're talking to the news, you're doing stuff with the magazines, and it's really fun. So it's a neat experience to be able to provide.
Cool. Hey, let's take a quick break here with a message from one of our sponsors, and hold on there, Fireball, because we're going to come back with rapid fire with questions from the audience here. But
Great.
before we get to that, I want to talk about BridgestoneTire.com. They've got their 3rd generation of run-flat tires with groundbreaking technology. It's great whether you're on the OE side at any of the car companies or on the retail side, meaning just a regular old customer who's looking for a new set of tires. Check out these RTFs, run-flat tires, RFTs, at BridgestoneTire.com. And Ben, let's get into rapid fire here. Why don't you bring up that graphic? Okay, Fireball, Jim wants to know, did you have anything to do with the Tucker movie?
No, I didn't. I personally didn't handle any of that stuff, but the Tucker, they use an original Tucker. Actually, I think several of them. So we didn't have anything to do with that at the shop.
Okay. Prius Stud wants to know, he says he's driving down to Amelia Island tomorrow. How can I meet you? I was supposed to be there tomorrow. I'm not going to be there. So next year. Right Knight wants to know, did Tim do the Camaro to Firebird in the movie Jen?
I'm sorry, which movie?
It says, did Fireball do the Camaro to Firebird in the movie Jen, Jen?
No.
Never heard of the movie.
Never heard of the movie, yeah. Okay, Dale
I haven't
Leonard.
heard of that. Is that Netflix?
Straight to Netflix, yes.
Dale Leonard from Lakewood, Ohio wants to know if you did the Mediocrity car.
No, I didn't do that one either. I'm going to have to Netflix all of these.
Such a good straight line, so little time.
Yeah.
That was from the commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, going back to the news we were talking about before, Peter, probably for you, with Liddell now gone, does this open the path for Mark Royce to succeed Dan Ackerson as CEO?
Well, Mark is one of the good guys in this business, one of the smart guys, one of the top product guys, and anyone who meets Mark agrees that this guy is the real deal, but I think we're way premature right now on that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Could he do it? Yes.
As long as could Mark do it? Yeah, he'd do a great job. But as long as Lieutenant Dan's around, the music has stopped.
Well, but again, don't forget Dan Ackerson's age, and yet Royce was in charge of Holden. He turned that around. That was a big important factor in his being groomed for that job. I'm hoping that'll be within a few years, but as Peter points out, not that quickly.
But we do know, apparently, from an impeccable source, that the new CFO at GM is an actual car guy.
Yeah. You put that in your column.
I had some people telling me Liddell was a little bit of a car guy, too.
Okay, Fireball Unsprung wants to know, you got any job openings?
Well, absolutely. I mean, there's things that are always changing, but you can definitely go to cinemavehicles.com and you can contact us through the site there. You can talk to Bob, who's one of the guys at the shop. Depends on what you do and what you need, but there's things are always changing, so there's always room for more.
Okay, we've got 2 questions from George from Brooklyn. First, Fireball, he wants to know if he ever worked on the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile.
We actually did some Oscar deals quite some time.
We're running into this audio problem again. He also wants to ask us what we thought of that Jaguar Bertone concept.
I liked it, but Jaguar is, the old not invented here. They're not interested.
Well, and it didn't look like a Jaguar where Jaguar is going. To me, it looked more like a Chrysler.
I thought it was pretty
looked
good.
like where Jaguar went.
Yeah, they're past that.
Okay, let's see here. This keeps jumping around on me. We're having computer problems tonight. Steve wants to know, with the current success Buick is having, has Ford's restructuring of Lincoln been a complete failure, given the product line being nothing but overpriced, gussied up Fords?
You're way premature on where Lincoln is going. It's not a complete failure because they're just starting to roll out what they're going to be doing.
But they're still stuck in a limbo right now.
Yeah, they're going to be in
and
limbo.
certainly all the attention's been on Ford, and now more attention on Lincoln because they've gotten rid of all their other brands.
Yeah, but
But they need to do a lot of work there.
we're 2 years out, but stay tuned.
But the first part of his question is pretty good. Buick is on a roll. I mean, these guys with, what, 4 cars in the lineup or whatever?
It is on a roll. I'm not sure that the Verano might be a Buick too far, though. I'm a little worried about that.
Really?
I agree with you.
Interesting.
I agree with you.
Not
Now,
sophisticated
well,
enough?
it's got different engines than the Cruze, but how will it be perceived as upmarket enough from the Chevy Cruze, which, after all, was designed to be a premium small Chevy, and maybe not premium, but certainly nicer than what you'd expect from a Chevy at that price point.
Uh-huh. Hey, Ben, I see we got a couple of phone calls. Let's bring one of them in.
Hey guys, this is GM Penn in Atlanta. Peter, I was wondering if you're still hearing positive rumors about a rear-wheel drive sedan for Chevrolet, or has that been killed in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Bolt? Thanks, guys. Bye.
Well, I happened to stumble upon the next generation Impala, which is quite nice. But that's a front wheel or all-wheel drive car. I still hear that there is a specific rear-wheel drive car coming.
We've run various rumors about that in Motor Trend. I happen to be of the opinion that we're not going to see it until we see a next generation Zeta, or perhaps if the Alpha platform is flexible enough, maybe something off of Alpha. As we were talking about this earlier, that platform needs to lose a lot of weight. And there are so many delayed programs at GM right now that I don't think we're going to see it until there's a next generation from Holden.
Gotcha. Ben, I see we got another phone call. Let's bring that one in.
Hi, this is John from Washington, D.C. I had a question about why the car companies don't offer more two-door coupes. I know it's probably the adult or the units that people buy are not as high as the sedans. But why two-door mid-size coupes are not as popular with the American car companies? And also, is there a reason why they charge $200 or $300 extra for a paint color that seems to me like a basic one, like red? I know GM charges like $300 for certain red colors. Is there a reason why they charge so much extra for it? Thank you, and have a good evening.
Because they can.
Yeah, exactly.
And also the coupe thing, you answered your own question.
Well, it's a fashion car. Typically, a coupe will sell really well for 1 year, and then after that, just drops like an anvil. There are a few exceptions. BMW has been able to sell a lot of 3 Series coupes, and we were talking about the Chevy Camaro doing very well, and traditionally the Ford Mustang doing well. But traditionally, most other coupes, especially a midsize, 1 year and that's it, and it's done.
Right. Okay, Fireball. Miss Motormouth wants to know, what do you think of Jesse James selling his brand West Coast Choppers, and do you think it was a good move?
Yeah, I think it was a good move. I think that Jesse went through some very tumultuous stuff. Whether it was true or not, it's one of those things that it kind of doesn't matter. It got released, and he got pummeled. Some will say he deserved it. Some will say that it was, it could be a variety of things. But, I think the guy wants to live his life now. He wants to put the stuff behind him, and would. I know that, I've worked with him a number of times, and I know that I had a very good experience with him, and, that's all I can say. That's only from my perspective. But, how it. I really don't know the reasons why he decided to do that, but I think he's looking for a fresh new life in a variety of ways, and undoubtedly he made some mistakes, but he's certainly trying to take steps to make a better life for himself. So I have respect for him in that capacity.
Okay, Goggles Pisano wants to know, who do you prefer, Fireball, Dean Jeffries or George Barris?
I'm sorry.
Oh, you didn't hear that one? Okay. The question was, who do you prefer, Dean Jeffries or George Barris?
Well, I know both those guys. I mean, they were both very, very talented, and I know George had a lot someday. And George is a walking cartoon character.
No, we're running into audio problems again. I don't know. This is unusual. We haven't run into this.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Now we can.
Now we can.
Oh, okay. I hang out with George much more. I know George very well, and I've known him since I was a kid. Dean went to his shop quite often, but George is a cartoon character, as I said. He's definitely out there, very active, and enjoys what he does. But he's a promotional king. He knows what to do. But George is very much a builder at heart, and loves that process. Even now, I think he's in his early 80s at this point, but he's still very active. So I can't necessarily pick between the two of them. I have a tremendous amount of respect for both of them. They both influenced me greatly.
Cool. Well, this is probably a good place to wrap up things tonight. So, Fireball, I want to really thank you for coming on and telling us everything that you do. It sounds like you're having a whale of a time there.
I am, and I really appreciate your time, guys, and appreciate the opportunity to say hi to everyone. As I mentioned, we have our podcast and at thehollywoodgarage.com, so people can see, basically what new movies are coming that have cool cars. And my website, fireballtim.com, is a place where you can see a variety of things. So a lot of the cars that we do and stuff. So Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. Lots of ways to connect.
That's cool. That's great to know. And
Take care, Tim.
yeah,
Good to meet you,
Thanks,
Tim.
guys.
great having it. Yeah, and we should point out that people can find us at facebook.com/Autoline Detroit. Can follow us at twitter.com/Autoline. Definitely check out Autoextremist.com or follow Peter at twitter.com/Autoextremist. You can get Todd's stuff at motortrend.com. Is there a separate one for Classic, Motor Trend Classic?
Now, Classic is mostly print. You can find some classic stuff at motortrend.com, but we do that a little bit differently. We also have an iPad app for whatever that's worth.
Cool. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Really great having you here again.
Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone, passion for excellence, and by Chevrolet, the all-new Chevrolet Cruze. Get used to more.
Witch Hunt is available on Kindle now, and it's also going to be in the iBookstore shortly. So
Cool.
And Roaster Jack, if you get an email from Todd, fix him up.
Yeah, Donna and I are drinking Pete's these days, so I could give your coffee a try.
Check out greatnoroko.com. That's Great Northern Roasting Company at Jack's up in Traverse City.
Okay, we set high standards with the Pete's, but that sounds good.
And Scotty, I hope you're still awake in Cleveland. And Simon, duck and cover, my friend.
Well, good thing he's no longer in Paris.
Yes, he's in Tokyo.
Yeah, well, that's got to be safer right now with this whole espionage caper that's blown up big time.
You're talking about that, Simon. I'm
Yeah.
got it now. Yes.
So what a mess. I mean, that's I can't see them firing anybody over this. I really can't.
Well, who's Goins number 2? Pilata?
Yeah.
He's too key of a guy. What are you going to do?
Right. Right. Especially if I'm right about the conspiracy theory. How can you fire the guy?
That's making more and more sense as the night goes on.
So where are you off to next, Todd?
Well, New York Auto Show, but the way trips pop up at Motor Trend, who knows? I may be somewhere soon before that, doing some things. I've got a classic story to work on in a couple of weeks, and we just put the last issue to bed of Motor Trend and also classic. I have a story I'm looking forward to appearing in that. I got to drive the Cadillac Cyclone a little while back, and
What's the
wrote
Cadillac
a story about that.
How's that concept car?
1959.
Really cool.
And there's a great story behind it. Ed Wellburn credits that as the car that prompted him to get into car design. He was 8
When he
or
was a
9
little
years old.
kid.
He was
He
8 or
sent a
9
drawing to
years old with the
GM,
car.
right?
Well, it was didn't he see it at the Philadelphia Auto Show or
Right,
something?
about 1960.
Yeah.
And the car also is kind of the bridge between the, it was designed at the very tail end of the Harley Earl era.
The jet age cars.
And just as Bill Mitchell was getting ready to take over. And Mitchell wanted the fins cut down to, it's got a little bit of the 61 style. It's got the lower kind of opposite fins, I'm not sure what you'd call them, the ones that jutted out below.
I just called it up online
Yeah.
here, and yeah.
And-
As soon as I see it, yes. I've seen the car before.
It's
That is
just-
awesome.
It is awesome.
It is. I made them put the bubble up for me so I could drive it with a bubble up. I felt like a jet fighter driving the car, or at least like a Jetson.
What's it powered by?
It's got a standard 390 cubic inch Cadillac V8 from 1958-59. I forgot the horsepower number on it, but pretty powerful. I was only able to drive it around the Warren Tech Center.
Still.
But put your foot into it enough to know the thing had a lot of torque.
Huh.
It was a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to that, and of course, just the usual.
Hey, you know what?
Motor Monthly.
GM Heritage Museum, they've got a duck now, which was this World War II amphibious vehicle. It is awesome looking, just awesome looking. And they got it because they were using it at the Proving Ground in Milford. And if they had to go out in any of the lakes there or the swamps, they always took that thing. So they used it up until, I don't know, fairly recently.
Right.
And then the Heritage Center got their hands on it, because I was in there for, they had like a memorial service for Chuck Jordan. And I went in the back way, and I was like, and that's where it's stored right now, because they're restoring it. And it's like, oh my God. That would be a cool classic thing. And then they told me they're going to get a Stuart tank, if you're familiar with that, from World War II, which was built by Cadillac. It's got twin V8s in it. And not as well a known tank. It's sort of a light tank, but that would be awfully cool too.
There's so many stories out there, and we do the domestics, we do the Asians, and we do the Europeans in classic, and so it's really, there's always a story, and there's so many good stories behind a lot of those cars, and just being able to drive them. I mean, beside the fact that I'm able to drive, almost anything new that comes out in any given year, to throw in something from 30, 40, 50
Oh yeah,
years
well the
ago.
Cyclone, I mean,
Yeah.
we'll all get in these test cars and whatnot. How many people have driven the Cadillac Cyclone?
Or ridden in the original Stingray.
Oh, you did? Oh my God.
Well,
good.
with Bill Mitchell.
Yeah.
Because you remember he lived down the street.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that'll be the next issue of Motor Trend
So
Classic.
did you pick that to go after, or how does that all come
It was
about?
assigned to me.
Okay.
We do a mix of stuff. Frank and I both in Detroit here will come up with a number of story ideas, and you get around to a small number of them at any given time, and then I'm also assigned stuff, so it keeps us busy.
Carmen, who works here, showed me the story that ran in the Detroit News fairly recently, that they store old vintage cars at Fort Wayne in Detroit.
Yeah. That,
And they got some pretty wild stuff there.
You know, and there's a story I've been wanting to do, or at least a pictorial. I think Metro Times did something on that a good decade ago, or close to a decade.
I had no idea.
Yeah, and they're wrapped in what's that?
It's like these little
Got big bubble wrap
igloo things, right,
Yeah,
to protect them.
They've got one of the surviving Chrysler turbines.
Turbine
there.
cars,
Yeah.
right.
They've got stuff, you know, from early 20th century to not that long ago. And
Right. And I think they're storing cars for the Detroit Historical Museum. And I remember being in there, this goes back 25 years ago, they had 2 scarabs in there. And I wonder if there's a scarab being stored at Fort Wayne then.
You know, it's just one of the wonderful tragedies of Detroit that if the city had better means and you know, maybe was run a little bit better. And I think it's being run better now than just in the last few years. But to have some sort of site, set up some sort of museum where.
You know what they should do? They should put some of these things at Metro Airport. You know, there's a lot of people who come in, they got a couple of hours to kill to make a connection, especially international flight. One thing that I always liked about the Frankfurt airport is that they've got an air museum there. First and only time I've ever seen a Stuka dive bomber was at the Air Museum at the Stuttgart Airport, and not Stuttgart, Frankfurt Airport, excuse me. But they should do the same thing at Detroit Metro, is haul stuff out of that museum or the Henry Ford Museum. You know, they got probably more stuff in the basement than they have on display.
Sure. No, it's a shame that they don't do something with that.
Well, cool, guys.
It's too bad we had tech.
Yeah, I don't know what we'll have to brainstorm that because, you know, last week it worked just fine.